Immigration was at the forefront in last night's MSNBC town hall with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton both working to make their case in a state with large portions of both immigrants and first-generation Americans. Joining me now, Congressman Luis Gutierrez, Democrat from Illinois, who has endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. Great to have you here, Congressman.
Thank you, Chris.
You have been quite critical of Bernie Sanders' record on immigration in the past. I want to ask you about an area where I think you actually side with Bernie Sanders, and that is on the fate of many of the women and children who have come here from Central America. The administration has deported some of them. They've gone through a process. They've been deported. There's some documentation to suggest some of them may have actually even been killed back in Honduras. Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton has basically said, I trust that process. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders has called for temporary status to be granted to all of them. Mm-hmm. Am I right that where are you on that?
Well, here's where I'm at. I'm here with Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, who's our lead on immigration and the Judiciary Committee. She and I, as you know, went down to San Antonio to visit the senators. And then we called upon the administration to end the deportation. So I'm for ending the deportations until such time we can guarantee that everyone gets their day in court. And I know they're going to come and tell you, well, they did get their day in court. No, they didn't have a lawyer, right? They really didn't have legal counsel. And when somebody's life is at risk, I think we should give them the full.
Okay, but then I am right, that is the position that Bernie Sanders shares and not Hillary Clinton.
Let me just say this. Hillary Clinton has, I believe, the fullest proposal. Because she's saying, wait a minute, they should be able to apply for asylum without having to go through that treacherous trip. She's saying that the United Nations should get involved. And she's saying that we should change the way. She's actually called for attorneys for all of the children before they go through the process. And she's also called for the end of this program. She has called for the end of their deportation until such time they have a lawyer. And I think that's the right thing to do.
I was going through the policy positions of these two candidates on immigration today in some real depth. And there's not a ton of daylight, as far as I can tell. Things on DACA, on DAPA, which is, of course, the executive order that's been stayed by the courts that would apply to a broader category of person. Is this about their current policies for you, or is this about record and who you feel you trust to prioritize?
Chris, look, it's about who I believe can win the election in November and is best suited to defend. Look, I want to get comprehensive immigration reform done. Here's what I believe. I don't think you can become president of the United States without going through the barrio. And I think, as you remember, the autopsy that Romney and Ryan went through said, we made a pretty fundamental mistake in trying to get every political analyst, anybody who knows something about politics will probably say, look, unless you get 45, 46% of the Latino vote, you just can't reach the presidency.
Right.
I don't think they're going to reach the presidency the way they're going. And so I want to make sure that I have a president of the United States that's equipped to get the job done. And let me just say this. 2007 was a critical year. Our lion, right, our champion in the Senate, Senator Kennedy, had a comprehensive immigration proposal. The fact is that my senator, Senator Durbin, Senator Leahy from Vermont, all voted for cloture. Senator Sanders said no to cloture and didn't allow. There's a real special thing that does happen. You know, the Senate's a very exclusive club. Here's one of the things the exclusive club allows other people to do. I, along with Zoe Lofgren and the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, we were in the majority after many years of being in the minority as Democrats. We went down there and pled with the senators, vote for cloture. We will make the bill better, because that's the way you make immigration reform. You let the Senate and the House, and you go to reconcile. Unfortunately, Bernie Sanders that day voted against cloture and then went on Lou Dobbs' program to tell everybody why he voted. And what he said was, I am voting against it because there are this guest worker program that will be terrible and it will take away jobs from American citizens. But here's what I say. What about the 11 million undocumented worker that is a de facto guest worker program that are being exploited? So I thought we need to put this forward in a way.
That moment of the vote, what I'm hearing from you really meant a lot. To you in terms of how you think.
Well, I think we would have moved so much forward. But look, Chris, it's not just about immigration. This morning, I was with the Human Rights Campaign Fund with 50 people. That's a great organization of people. I've worked with them on the LGBT community. I mean, I look at so many organizations and so many issues. As a member of the Judiciary, I sit there and I protect Planned Parenthood. And when I hear that Planned Parenthood and the Human Rights Campaign Fund, two legitimate, great organizations in the forefront, of progressive politics
Yes.
endorse Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And Bernie Sanders says, well, they're part of the establishment. You got to be pretty elitist to call the men and the women who fight every day to protect women's reproductive rights part of the establishment.
In fairness to him, I think he meant the Democratic Party, center-left establishment. But I get your point. Congressman, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, joining me now, I have Lucy Flores. She's a Democratic candidate for Congress, former Nevada State Assembly member. You've endorsed Bernie Sanders.
I have.
On this McCain-Kennedy, I mean, that's a vote that he has defended, and he has said, look, the guest worker provisions weren't up to the standards I wanted. But there's a lot of people, there's a pretty strong argument on the other side, right? That this was the best we could get at that moment. And you just heard the congressman say, look, this was a crucial moment for this thing. It died that year, and we've seen what's happened in the wake of it. Like, he's got to own that vote.
Well, and he has. And look, as you already acknowledged, he has explained what the problem was. And frankly, I think that Congressman Gutierrez would agree that we can't have something that treats people as second-class citizens. And frankly, that provision would have created almost an indentured servant type of situation. But ultimately, for me, it really is about, sure, people going to be disappointed in that vote. Well, I'm really disappointed that Secretary Clinton took the position she did just recently on those Central American refugee children. And even more recently said that we had to use those children to send a message. So we're going to use children to send a message, knowing that we're sending them back into the conditions. So the response could have been entirely different. And frankly, that's the same argument that we're now saying that others are saying about Senator Sanders, that response could have been different. Well, frankly, that both of their responses could have been different.
Just in fairness, let me just say the context of that quote about send a message, right? The message was to try to essentially send a message to smugglers, right? That they couldn't essentially make money off of this transit, and that if you sort of stopped the acceptance at one end, that would sort of work down the line to close that off.
Except that
just in full fairness, that is the context of that quote.
That is the context, except that what the action was sending children back to Central America.
Dolores Huerta, of course, a legendary organizer. She has endorsed Hillary Clinton. She endorsed her back in 2008. She's, I think, fair to say, fairly loyal to Hillary Clinton. Says this of Bernie Sanders: Bernie hasn't been around. He came to see the Latinos when they had the fruit. She mentions an old saying about not seeing the cactus until it has the fruit.
Right.
What's your response to that?
I think that the senator has done an incredible job in Congress, and frankly hasn't been given the opportunity to introduce himself to constituencies outside of Vermont. Right. This is, in all fairness, the first time that he has been on the national stage, right? And the fact that he has so much momentum building for him, his message resonates across gender, across age, across ethnicity. And I've seen that firsthand on the ground here in Nevada. I mean, look, 2-3 months ago, we were talking about how Nevada was going to be Secretary Clinton's firewall, and that a big part of that was going to be the Latino community. Well, what are we seeing now? We don't have a ton of credible polling because it's so difficult.
Luckily, we get an election.
That's exactly right. We're going to see it tomorrow. But anecdotally, I can tell you, it has just been incredible to watch the momentum, the volunteer-driven activities that are happening out there, and frankly, the conversations that I've had personally with so many Latinos out there, families, young people. My own dad the other day was so amazing. He says to me, he's very independent, late 70s, Latino immigrant from Mexico. And he says to me, I said, Dad, who are you going to caucus for? And he said, well, me gusta el viejito. I really like the old guy. So I was like, this is fantastic.
Let me say this. You strike me as a talented enough politician. I would be disappointed if you couldn't convert your father.
Well, I also respect his opinion.
Thank you very much, Lucy Flores. Great to have you.